counseling and is communication, specifically marital counseling and different things. But a tool to use in authentic communication is to always start your response by what I hear you saying is fill in the blank. And with my interactions over the last 6 months or so with Paul, I've been listening to him and I'm watching him use this tool in his life, because what it does is it puts him in a position to where he's not automatically lashing out. His first position is repeating what the person said. Well, if you're repeating what the person said accurately, you're listening. Are you not? So it is a way in which you can position yourself for authentic communication all the time by repeating that. And if you get it wrong, the person says, no, that's not what I said. Then they have the opportunity to tell you what they said. Now you have clarification, so you still haven't responded yet. You have new information, and so then you do it again. Okay, so you're saying, boop, 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 boop. Now they say yes. Now you have the opportunity for response. Now you become the giver and they become the hearer. But what you've done is you've put in a buffer, if you will, a time delay, to force you to not just bleh when someone addresses you with something. That's a great tool. It takes great practice. I used to always admire Tiger Woods, and so does the whole golfing community, because he can be anywhere in his golf swing and walk away from it. Wherever he felt something was off, he would back off. No one else in golf does that. Once that backswing, it doesn't matter what happens, it's coming all the way through. It takes a very powerful individual that knows themselves to be able to stop and walk away and retract, and then get back up and do it again. Same type of technique. Oftentimes, because we're living our lives based on emotion that's wrapped up in fear and all these other different things, we don't even have the ability to stop once we get going. We're lashing out, saying stuff we don't mean, yada, 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 and we realize, after the fact what we just said, and now we got to go back and say we're sorry and all that. When in reality, we never had to go there in the first place.
What are your thoughts on circumstances like with what Eric was talking about in the Torah for the day? Is that in Proverbs it says, don't speak. Like after listening to a specific circumstance, don't speak unless you have understanding of whatever they're speaking about or circumstances. What are your thoughts on, like, say someone's communicating to you with a specific circumstance or what they're going through, and I can't relate, or I don't have the words to translate back to them. What would be your thoughts on an accurate way to respond?
So it would be with what I hear you saying, First, we got to make sure that's accurate, what you heard, because you might not have heard. And what it does is when you say, what I hear you saying is boop, 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 you'll be able to tell immediately whether it was right or wrong. And whether it's right or wrong, you're generally going to get, if it's wrong, what you said, you're going to get the right information so you can get a better understanding or clarifying. I'm removing that word from my dictionary. So I'm going to clarify that situation in a better way. Or even if what you said was right, 9 times out of 10, they're going to give you a little bit more. So you'll have even more clarity of what's going on. Then you say, okay, so this, that, and the other. So are you asking me this, 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 and this? Or you can say, how can I help you? Or how can I lift you up in this circumstance? As long as you can always ask questions, clarifying questions. There's no such thing as a bad question.
And ask a question.
Yeah. And so you just are questions are just opportunities for individuals to give you more information. If you ask someone enough questions, eventually they'll tell you exactly what they want you to say to them.
Sometimes that's nothing. Like this thing with snowball, listening. So a lot of people, they just need someone to listen to them.
Right.
Man.
Specifically women.
Right.
When you get to a place and you're just like, I'm just like, so how can I help you in this situation, honey? And she says, well, I really just wanted you to listen. Well, why didn't you communicate that to me up front? But women don't work like that.
She just figured it out. You didn't know?
I mean, we listened to Homeboy last week,
I was just about to say that. They want you to be a detective and figure everything out yourself.
Yeah, it's like they lead in with the question, hey, honey, do you have to pee? And the guy's like, that's a weird question.
No.
And then he goes, oh, should I ask her if she needs to pee? So it's that question. It's engaging in it. Women are like that. They want you to figure it out. You got to be an investigator. Men generally are matter of fact. Authentic men, anyway. You're not going to look over at your wife and go, honey, do you need to pee? When you're the one who needs to pee. Actually, I call it passive aggressiveness, but it doesn't. It isn't. That's a big word that people don't like. But a lot of the times, the root of that kind of communication is passive aggressive. So, but don't tell your wife that. Be bad.
So there's some new people there in the house. How do you go about changing something like this? So say I recognize that my communication styles are not good, or I need to improve in some area. What are some of the things that you recommend to these guys?
So practice. We practice, right? Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And so we position ourselves by opening our mouths and having authentic conversation where we're vulnerable. But we can also do it in a controlled manner where we can, pick things out and role play. And I can do it. I can do one with you right now. Okay, ready? Me and you, David.
Okay.
When I send you to the store with my hard-earned money and ask you to complete a task, and you don't do it right away and all the way, it makes me feel like you don't care about what we're doing. Now you say, what I hear you saying
What you're
is,
saying, Jason, is when you send me to go buy something to complete a task that needs to be done, and it didn't get done right away and all the way, you feel that I don't care about what you're doing, what we're doing.
correct? Okay, now you have an opportunity to respond.
Okay. Jason, I was careless with the actions that I was doing, the physical act, but I do not feel in such a way that I don't care about what we are doing.
So what I hear you saying is that even though you didn't do the job all the way, you want me to know that you care about what we're doing.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay? Now you have a chance to respond.
Wait, I thought that was yours.
No. I just repeated it back to you. I'm the originator.
Oh, I thought we bounced it.
Yeah, now it's been bounced back.
Oh. So, I don't know. Did I say something new? 'Cause
Well, generally speaking, there's 3 steps to restoration: acceptance, reconciling, and forgiveness. And so if I'm in an authentic conversation with somebody,
that should be the goal.
that's always the goal, so that we can be done with it. Because as of right now, what you said is good and all,
Okay.
but you haven't owned it, and you kind of owned it, and you certainly didn't authentically ask for forgiveness. Right?
Yeah. I
So,
would like to take some steps to initiate that right now. You're a robot. I would like to initiate forgiveness factor.
forgiveness.
Oh man.
See, our whole goal in life is to be. And we can't be who our Creator has called us to be when we're walking around with all this crap inside of us. And we can pretend that certain things don't bother us, but we'd be liars based on who we said we are, where we are. Every time you walk in the door, how you doing? Oh, everything's great. Liar. So in that particular circumstance, your communication authentically within this community is always about restoration. Your whole purpose in life and being here is restoration. Your whole purpose in living in authentic community is restoration in yourself and others. So that's what we're always trying to do, because we should never walk away from a conversation not having the blessing. The obedience is this. The obedience is, whatever. When Eric, when you are constantly rubbing on your beard, I feel like you're not paying attention to what I'm saying.
What you're saying is when I play with my beard, you don't feel like I'm engaged and actively listening.
Actually, I said when you're constantly rubbing on your beard, it makes me feel like you're not engaged and paying attention.
So what you're saying is when I'm constantly doing it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't feel like that's true. I mean, I am listening, just I don't even honestly know why I do it. It's just something I do.
So what I hear you saying is you don't know why you do it. It's just something that you do. While we're in this format of authentically communicating with each other, would you try to not rub on your beard as much? Okay. Thank you. Restoration. He might have asked for forgiveness if it was irritating me that much. Could have been a part of it, but I decided to forego that and not have to have that extra step. But see, the consideration is in the other person. It's not you. So if the person's telling you something and it's like that, then you want their forgiveness for getting them off in any way, shape, or form, off track, off focus, off whatever, right? So it's something that you would naturally want to do because that's the Torah. That's what's written into your heart. But see, I can move around it, but that's always the goal. We should always want to be in a position that we don't want to be disturbing an individual's journey towards restoration. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's authentic. So if me shooting salad last night in the truck when we were finishing and this, that, and the other, and I was being a goofball, like if that got you off track, that would be the last thing that I would want to do. So I would want to make restoration of that by asking for your forgiveness if it was brought to me. Does that make sense? I take that is the final. I take ownership of my actions. I hear you because I repeated it back, and then I accept it through my willingness to sacrifice myself to that current position or situation. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, it's not about right and wrongs. Does that make sense? So I'm going to next week get back into more of the identifying these things and then breaking them down on a physical level as well as a spiritual level. So kingdom and reality, and how that affects our current accurate position. So your homework is to have authentic conversations with each other, like we just did, and see how they go. And it's cheesy. It seems cheesy,
No,
but it really isn't. It is the recipe for restoration.
because it actually makes them think. If they can say, yeah, like agree, like they listen to you, but you repeat it back.
Listen, man,
you have to think about
you-
it to repeat it back.
What's funny about this is I learned a lot of this in my own marriage counseling, my first year of marriage. And it's really hard to sit in a room and talk like that when you want to kill the person or when there's something really bad going on. But it is absolutely amazing what happens when you are obedient to it and you walk away from it. The restoration is undeniable. It is your willingness to get in there and walk it out, no matter what you think about it. That is the basics to communication. So
Yeah, that technique really, it really prevents you from reacting right away, because you have to process it, and then it helps you to gauge, am I really listening, right? And so, that's something that,
a lot of times we walk around in life doing our thing and we'll walk by things that will grab our mental attention. We'll see it with our eyes. It'll grab our mental attention, but we will not act out in obedience because we have other things going on. And it can be as simple as walking by someone, like everyone's doing something and one or two people are not doing anything, and you walk by it and it catches your eye and you see it. If you continue to walk by it and you don't say something about it, you're walking away with disease in your heart, and it's going to eat you up and turn into a resentment. And then that resentment's going to come out ugly in some other conversation down the line, and it's like trying to put 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. It goes everywhere because it's all coming out during this one time. When in authentic community, it could have been like, hey man, can you get the trash? Or hey man, can you check the chart? Or hey man, could you help us out some way? Yeah, what do you want me to do? What can I do? See? What can I do? What can I do? What do you mean? I am doing something. I'm holding up this counter. I've been working all day. There's a big, huge difference there. In authentic community, we got to be ready to receive. And if one of our brothers who is connected to us, we have a connection with, says, hey, hey man, that wall could probably hold itself up. You think we could get some help over here? And you can go, yeah, what can I do? What can I do? And that goes back to that see a need, fill a need type of thing. Not, okay, now is when I press the need button. Beep, boop, beep.
Hit this button.
So, anytime you're in communication, authentic communication, if you're in it, it should be authentic communication. Authentic communication is not just something that goes on here. If you are who you say you are, your communication should be authentic. So anytime you're out in the world or wherever you're at, communicating authentically, and you don't understand what's going on, what do?
That's
Yes.
a clarifying question.
That's it, man.
Specifically what I hear you saying.
Yes. Clarifying questions. And how do you ask those questions? You go, what do you mean? What? Okay. Or do you ask them in a way that are respectful, authentically? Because the question is communication. So it better be authentic. Which means eye contact, body language is at ease, heart is open, ready to speak to you at a level in which you can compute. And if it's like something that maybe you don't have time for, maybe you're having a crappy day. You know, my wife.
That's when you should do it. That's when you should do it.
My wife came over yesterday, or on the phone or whatever, and I'm like, you know, last thing I want to do is get into some crazy conversation about God knows what. So I have to start with my current position, which is, hey babe, I'm having an awful day. And I got a lot of stuff to do. So before we communicate, I just want to let you know my current position. And she says, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. I understand. I was just calling for whatever. Okay, great. Boom, boom, boom. Instead of going, what are you calling me with this crap for? Why are you interrupting me all the time? Don't you know how important I am?
Do you have to pee?
You know, if it's something like that where you are having a bad day or you're busy or whatever, you communicate by identifying your current position. And then you either ask a clarifying question to see if it's something that you can deal with now, or say, you know, can we deal with this in an hour? Or tonight, or whatever. Can I think about this? Can you give me 24 hours to think about this? And really think about it. You better if you're going to be authentic. Because that person's going to be waiting for you when they see you tomorrow. And they're going to know whether you did or not. There's no reason that you can't ask for time to let it sit. How many times have I said that to you guys? You ask me a question, I'm like, I'm not really in a position to answer that right now. Can I get 24 hours on that?
And some days you're like, I didn't have time to think about that. I need another 24 hours.
I start with my current position, right? You know, because that's authentic. It's undeniable. It is what it is. It's truth. And so as long as you're communicating, there's no reason for belief of certain people, or playing stupid tapes, or listening to stupid stories about other people, specifically the ones in your house, but work or anywhere. Because that's what we do next, isn't it? Is we start telling ourselves a story about somebody when we don't hear what we want, or they're acting this way, or the blah, blah, blah. And we immediately start telling ourselves a story about them. And that's the second part of that exercise, the dating exercise, is when Tony brought up the girl, you know, she says, he says, ask me out on a date on Thursday or whatever. So she does, and he says, no. And then he said, well, what did I say to you? And she said, you're not interested in dating me. And then he said, okay, what other stories do you tell yourself during that circumstance? I'm no good, or I'm not pretty, or he's a jerk, or he's gay, or whatever it is. There's these stories, they happen and you don't even realize it. And so what it does is it impedes you from living authentically as well as communicating authentically. Because men, like what he was telling her, men mean what they say. He was just saying he couldn't go out on Thursday. She didn't ask him about Friday or Saturday. So before you start writing scripts and listening to your own BS, communicate authentically. Hi, my name is David, and I am authentic. Questions, comments?